As we're getting set up, this morning marks the first of 4 Sundays where we are going to be stepping into our new mission and vision and inviting you into that new mission and vision as well. And so we are very excited. This is a thrilling time to be part of this wonderful group of Jesus people in this congregation. New things are happening. God is up to new stuff, and we cannot wait to share it all with you. I want to give you a little picture of what it's going to look like here in the month of March. This morning, we're going to hear from this panel up here, and I'll share about that in just a couple of moments. But next Sunday, we are going to hear from the entire vision team, kind of like in this setting here, and they're going to be sharing in detail our new mission and vision. And if you're wondering what is exactly we're going to be doing and how's that going to play out and why are we doing all that kind of stuff, in detail next Sunday, you're going to hear that. So we encourage you to join us one way or the other, whether that's here in person or whether that's online. We encourage you, make sure that you mark it on your calendar. We'd love you to join us live one way or the other. The following Sunday, March 21st, in a couple weeks, our state pastor, Steve Rennick's going to be here. He's going to be sharing about the value and the necessity of strategic vision, right? So we want an inspirational vision, but we also want what's a strategy, right? Well, how are we going to do this? How are we going to go forward as we cooperate with the Lord and partner with Him? And so he's going to be sharing in a couple of weeks. Then finally, the last Sunday of the month, March 28th, I'm going to be sharing about an invitation for each one of you. We want to engage everyone in this new mission and vision, even those who are at home and shut in. We want everybody to have a part, to connect. And so we're going to invite you into a team, and we're going to have team sign-ups out here. And you say, why? I don't know about that. I might not be ready for that just yet. Well, that's okay. We'll give you another week. We'll give you one more week, right? The following week, first week of April, Easter Sunday, you can have to that week, all right? But we want everybody to be engaged, and so we are very excited for that. Now, as the vision team, as we were prayerfully and dialoguing about our new direction, where we're going, we started to consider a story that just popped up over and over again as we talked about the life of this congregation. And a story that's been lived for over 10 years in the life of this church, Vista Grande Church of God, Grandview Community Church. And what was the previous name before Vista Grande? First Church, yeah, First Church of God. And so all the history, the past 10 years or more, there's been a story that kept resurfacing as we talked as a vision team. And we thought, boy, this story captures the heart of who we have been, who we currently are, and more intentionally where we want to go as we go forward. We thought if we could put into practice a lot of the things that we hear in this story, that is the heart of the mission and vision that we want to carry forward. And so we're going to hear a story today from these 6 wonderful people that are up here with us. They're going to be telling their story. And for those of you who haven't yet had the pleasure of meeting these 6 and knowing them, I want to introduce them. So first we have the grandparents. We have Bobby and Kathy Price. Can we give them a hand this morning for being up here? Bobby and Kathy, how long have you been married?
This December it'll be 48. Oh,
there you go.
December it'll be 48 years.
48 years. All right, let's celebrate. That's awesome. And then we have their grandkids, Chris and Emma Dwyer. Let's give them a hand this morning for sharing with us. So, Chris and Emma, one at a time. Let's start with the older. Tell us how old you are, what grade you're in, and what school you go to.
All right. Well, hello.
There you go.
I'm 17. I am a senior at Doherty High School.
And Emma?
I'm 14, and I'm a freshman at Odyssey Early College.
Where?
Odyssey Early College. It's in the Wasson campus.
Oh, I didn't know that. Well, thanks for telling us. Awesome. Awesome. Thanks, guys. And then last but not least, we have Aaron and Emily Cash, just to my left here. And guys, how long have you been a part of this congregation? I know it's going to be different for each of you, but
Well, I think we've both been here since around 93.
93, okay. So 93 would be almost 30 years? Yeah.
We're old.
Didn't want to say the number, did you? We are delighted to have each of them up here sharing with us this morning. Hey, did you know I have a video call with your daughter later today?
I didn't.
Yeah. From
great.
where's she at?
She is in Cajamarca, Peru.
Peru, yep. She's doing mission work there, and so we're going to have a call with her later. And I don't know if you're supposed to know that or not, but we're talking to her, so she'll tell you later, I'm sure. Kathy, your family story is one of, in some ways, some great heartache and tragedy, but it's more than that, too. It's a story of forgiveness. It's a story of loving sacrifice, of loving neighbors, and so much more. So, Kathy, would you share with us, kind of as if it's the first time, for those who've never heard, would you share with us your family's story of all that God has done over the past so many years?
Okay, well, in 2008, on my daughter's birthday, she went to pick up these two guys at their father's house, and unfortunately, he met her at the door, and it ended up being a homicide-suicide. Christopher was 4. Emma was 20 months. And Christopher was standing next to him when it happened. So he went through some extensive therapy, and it was PTSD that took those lives. It was not Russ. It was not anything that he was doing. It was the disease. And back then, that was more or less the beginnings of the wars, and they had to do things that he had done things that were not good for including women and children, and it affected him so bad that he just never got over it. So I never blamed him. I immediately forgave him because it was the disease, and now people do take it into consideration. But after that happened, we ended up with 2 little kids, and it had been about 17 years since I had kids in the house. And I was 60, Bobby was 72, so it was going to be a real life change. She was still in diapers, and so we took it on.
Emma is so thankful you told that.
And I know. And I always told my daughter I would never do diapers or teenagers again. And guess what? But everything happened for a reason. And God took control. And then these people here, which are God sent, they've earned every feather in their wings. They came to us because our backyard was great big ponds, deep ponds. And I had a 20-month-old that couldn't go in the backyard. And a 4-year-old, I mean, he would have drowned. But they got together with the church, and they came to our house and filled in all our backyard. They spent unknown hours. A lot of you are still here in here. And they filled those ponds up, put a swing set up. And I had been going to a mega church, which was nothing. And I thought at the time, well, they did all this work, the least I can do is go to church at their church. So I've been here ever since 2008. We've been here. And I don't know what I would have done without these 2 people, because they come to us when I don't even know I need the help.
And Kathy, these guys, when you guys got Chris and Emma, these guys were and still are your next door neighbors.
Yes. Yeah, they're right next door. And they do everything for us. I mean, between Emily and Bobby, they race to see who's going to do our yards first, our lawn. And it's usually Emily because they get out at 6 in the morning or something. And they shovel a path to the door and things like that. And it's just been a godsend that we were able to raise the children in a church and have them, because otherwise, if we couldn't have taken care of them, they wouldn't have gone into foster care. So I don't know what else.
Yeah, and we can. And as things come up throughout we're sharing, you can always jump in. You have seniority. So now I didn't mean that as an age joke.
I'm the,
So I'm just
I'm
saying.
the queen.
I'm saying you're the queen. You're the queen.
You're the
Queen and king up here. Yep. So Aaron and Emily, from your guys' perspective, which is obviously totally different from their, middle of the tragedy, whatever, and these are your next door neighbors, and all this happens. Why don't you share a little bit from your guys' perspective of how it played out for you?
Okay. Yeah, we've been neighbors since 2000, I think. So quite a while, and we had a friendship and a relationship first. Christopher and Emma have an older brother and sister, Kenneth and Sarah, who are just in between our kids' age, and so Kathy and Bobby were just great grandparents at that time, and so our kids got to get together with their grandkids, and so we would do some holidays together and that kind of thing, and just have fellowship and have fun together. And then I remember when everything went down, Kathy and Bobby's son Eric came to our house and knocked on the door and let us know what happened. And at that time, Kathy shares a lot now, but at that time she was very private. She was not okay with anyone sharing anything in her personal life, and some of the things that got shared at the time, I remember she struggled with a lot, and Bobby kind of just shut down. He's quiet up here, but he'll talk to you if you get him one-on-one. But so his struggle, I think, was a lot more than hers, and just the struggle of why do bad things happen to good people, and like where is God in this situation, and why is this a thing? But let me see, I gotta check my notes. But so they went from grandparent role to parent role instantly. And like she said, being 60, thinking you're done, that's a big thing, and it wasn't a process. A lot of people now become parents as grandparents, and it's kind of a slow decline of the parenting, and so it happens gradually. But Kathy had like the gangsta car that she drove, and she had to get rid of that, and got a minivan, and she had these amazing birds that just she put so much care and so much effort into. She had a giant bird cage that was I don't know, it's at least as big as this area, that was in one of her bedrooms, and parrots that she probably would have kept for the rest of her life had things not happened the way they did. But so, they got rid of the car. She rehomed the birds and took the cage out because she had to have a place for these kids. And so there was just a lot of sacrifice that happened on their part. You have any?
Yeah. My recollection of this is more vague than theirs. I don't even recall how the process started with the church. I think it was because of our prayer group and prayer chains that they even found out about it myself, because we don't recall going to the church and saying, hey, we need to do this. At the time, Jesse Hill was I think, in charge of the missional outreach team, and I think they caught wind of this need, through deep prayer of our men's prayer group on Tuesdays, and that's how the ball got rolling. It wasn't us going to church saying we need to do this. it was the love of this church that said, there's a huge need here, and let's figure out what we can do for them. And in the midst of that, it was just amazing to see, the sacrifice. This church has always been good, historically, about stepping up, for these types of events. And I don't know exactly who was back there in the backyard when we were working, but I know a lot of them are still here today, and just how quickly those things come together, and how easily this church has always come together and worked hard for those kinds of things. It's just been amazing, and we do love our neighbors. They have been our neighbors first, and our relationship started well before all of this. And I do call them the greatest neighbors that you could have. But yeah, God has definitely been a part of this, and it's been amazing to see. So.
And Aaron and Emily, you guys have a special role in the life of Chris and Emma, and you've taken on some ownership, saying, "Hey, we're willing to step up this way." So, what specifically is that role that you've taken on in their life, if needed?
Well,
Or you can say it.
go ahead. We feel so much about these two people that we have it in our wills, if we pass before the kids are up and grown, they are going to be their permanent guardians. That's what we feel about these neighbors. And anybody that has a neighbor like that, hang on to them, because they're worth their weight in gold. And that's how close we've become because of the sacrifices they make for us and the way that the children feel about them. They grew up with them. They were in her daycare. We just love them to death. So.
Well, I mean, and there are some times that Kathy and Bobby, for whatever reason, aren't able to transport. I think it's happened more with Emma than Christopher, because most of his stuff has been school stuff where it's their buses that transport them. But there have been a couple events that Emma couldn't have been able to go to through school that we provided transportation. We just try to have them over just to kind of hang out. We've had game nights and movie nights, and just we try to talk, because I think from a grandparent's perspective, it's different from a parent's perspective, and it does take a village. And so there's things that, as a grandparent raising your grandkids, you forget some of the little things that that they need to know, or whatever, or not even forget. Just the more people you're exposed to, I think, the more thing you learn. And so I lecture both of them a lot about, okay, so this is how, if your pilot light goes out, this is where you find it, and this is how you relight it, or just random life stuff. Emma got the most lectures because she would walk to school with us. So.
Chris and Emma, I'd gone over. Of course, I think you guys were there the first time I stopped in, and we were talking about kind of the sharing, and then I stopped back by and met with Kathy. What do you call Grandma? What do you call her? Grandma? Is it Grandma? Everybody's got a different name, right? Mimi and Grandma and Grammy and all kinds of others. But so when I stopped to talk with Grandma about these questions that we were going to process through, things like that, and we were sharing about some of the sacrifices. I was sharing about the sacrifices that they had made for helping raise you guys. And one of the things that she said was, there was these sacrifices, but as it always is when you sacrifice for people, it was totally worth it. Totally worth it. And so with you guys, what impact has the love of your grandparents shown in raising you? What kind of impact has that had in your life?
Well, my grandma and grandpa have always had set expectations for us, and rather than raising us like grandparents, like giving us everything we want, they have us earn what we want, or like what we want, and they give us everything we need. They're just always there, and they made such a big sacrifice for raising us when they didn't have to. It was completely their decision, so we love them.
Okay, sorry. It shows that like, no matter what, there's someone there. Like, cause who knows what could have happened had they not been there. So, it shows that no matter where you're at or whatever, someone's still there for you. And yeah.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. We've kind of talked about it, and I guess I'll just open this up to anybody. I was going to just refer to the kids and grandparents, but you guys as well, the Cashes. What are other ways? Is there other ways the church has come alongside you guys that you can think of? Maybe you haven't shared already with regards to the tragedy itself or life after the tragedy these past 10 plus years.
Well, the church, all the people in the church have always been so kind, and do you need anything? And I've had dinners brought to our house, and everybody is just so welcoming, and I feel like we're in a family. We're not in a, because like I said, I came from a mega church, the biggest one in town, and I knew no one. I knew no one's name, nothing. And when I asked one of the worship team if I could use one of their songs at my daughter's funeral, because she had passed the day before, he said, "Oh, sure," and turned around and walked off. And that just told me they don't care. This church cares. And they're a giving church. You're a very giving church, and I appreciate all of you.
Chris and Emma, because your dad being in military and his service, there's a program you guys been a part of called Angels of America's Fallen. Did I say that right? Yeah, Angels of America's Fallen. And so would you tell us a little bit about that program and maybe some of the things you've got to participate in because of being part of that?
So what the program is kids of fallen police, fire, or military. They give like financial support for like a passion of the kids. So like for me, they paid for my football, and then they do karate, and then for Emma, did hula dancing and karate. And so yeah, they offer support with that, and then the people also help like with counseling kinda, or yeah, like counseling. And so yeah, they help us like to be able to do the stuff we want to do, and yeah.
And not be a financial burden on us.
Angels of America's Fallen helps, I don't know, but me, like they have people that you can reach out to. They give you phone numbers so that if you ever need someone to talk to, like that maybe doesn't know your story, to get like a different perspective on it, they always have someone on call to talk to you. So that's what they've done a lot for me. And paying for, like having donors that are able to pay for hula and karate I know it's helpful on my grandparents, and it means a lot to me that there's people that care about people like us, so it's really important. Angels of America's Fallen just is a great organization, so.
Yeah, so in some ways, it's almost as if they're providing two things. They're providing support for emotional needs, psychological needs, whatever, just relational needs, so mentoring, counseling, all that kind of thing. And then there's also this financial support to help you guys do things that you're passionate about. And I think, I forget on their website, I think I read through and it talked about this idea that essentially helping them develop skills and things like that they can use and become more impactful in their role in society because they learned these different skills and gone through these different things they're passionate about. So I thought it was an awesome organization and a great model for the church, isn't it? That's a great model for the church. I think they offer like $1,800
They allot $1,800 a year for paying for these different things the kids want to do.
for each kid.
Yeah. And then each, if there's money left over from somebody else and they haven't used it, they'll add it on if it's needed. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. Awesome. Hey, this is kind of open for anybody. Kind of our last question we'll process through together is, where have you personally seen God at work in the life of this tragedy? You know, I've left that question that Bobby was processing through so much, and you think about where's God in this, and all that kind of thing. When it first happens, it's hard to see it, and often many years after, it's hard to see that. Where have you guys seen God at work in this tragedy and life after the tragedy?
Do you want to say something or no?
Yeah. Might as well anyway, huh? I won't say too much, but at 83, a lot of things has come into play with me. And really, here, and it goes out here. Yeah, I was going to say that. But I'll tell you guys, everything that Kathy says, if I could remember a half of it, I'd be all right. And that's enough for me.
Well, one big thing that stands out that that God has worked through it, is when we first got the kids, I was extremely overwhelmed. I had to get the Army involved. I had to get their annuity done. I had to get their ID cards, all this stuff. And I was just beside myself. And Bobby and I, we were gamblers. We would go to Las Vegas 3 or 4 times a year. We would be living halfway up Cripple Creek. And I mean, Las Vegas, the casinos were sending us plane tickets, $1,000 checks, because we would go up there and gamble. And I just one night, I know you're not supposed to do it, but I made a pact with God. And I said, Lord, if you will get me through this first year, I will never gamble again. At the end of that first year, which was tumultuous, I mean, it was awful. It was like turning on a light switch. All of a sudden, everything fell into place. I mean, everything. If I thought, oh, I need this, boom, it was there. I know it was God working to do that. I never gambled again in my life. I wouldn't get a bingo ticket. I wouldn't get a scratchy ticket, none of that stuff, ever again. And I kept my pact with God, and God kept his pact with me. So that's how it worked in my life.
I can't but see God in his love throughout every aspect throughout the years of our relationship, of these two being raised in their house, from a church loving them consistently. But I just go back to, I think about what Christopher said earlier about having somebody, knowing that somebody's there for you. And more than just people, I think the bigger story, the background story that's always been consistent in this is God has been there. And I can remember, the Guidos. I can remember just many other programs and other things that have come in line beside these two to help raise them and be a part of their life, to speak and support and love, more importantly. And a lot of times we can love and not realize that the author of this love was God. But in this situation, I know 100% that everybody and every person here that has ever loved on these two, the author was God. And they would give all the glory and honor to God. And that's what I've seen I mean, every step of the way. I mean, it doesn't take a lot of thought to think about the moments, many moments of love. I mean, I'm just glad I've been a part of it. We seriously don't think we've done much. God has done much in this situation, though.
I don't really have anything to add.
Anybody else?
Well, I believe God does everything for a purpose, and rather than saying, God, why did you take my parents? I thank him every day for taking them, because without them, I've learned that they love us so much, and that you can get through anything if you just trust God. So that's what I do, and God just has done so much in my life and in everyone's situations.
I don't know how much this pertains to the question.
Going off script.
That's okay.
No, starting out, I was a lot of the opposite. I was more the opposite of Emma. I was more questioning my faith and like, excuse me, like why did it have to be me type of thing. And I think questioning your faith is a good thing because like every time I have, it's like you become closer to God afterwards. So it's definitely helped me become closer with God.
Yeah, well said. Well said. Questioning your faith is not a bad thing because it leads you closer to the Lord. It does. Doubt always leads to deeper faith if we just keep going, right? So that's awesome. Well said. Well said. Hey, Bobby, Kathy, Kristen, Emma, Aaron, and Emily, thanks so much for sharing your guys' story. Can we give God a hand and give this family a hand this morning for sharing? As we're kind of reshoveling here and moving things around, I want to kind of tie things up for us this morning. We are beginning a thrilling time in the life of our church. This is a thrilling time. This is a defining moment of sorts, and there's always those defining moments in the history and life of a congregation. We have been, in many ways, as a church, is where we are going. Where we have been as a church, and we heard it in this story, is where we are going as a congregation. The story we just heard was one that there were a number of things that stood out to me about how this family of these neighbors of the church coming alongside. There were a number of things that stood out to me that I thought, boy, that's who we are, and that's who we're going to be going forward. And I think it's beautiful of any mission and vision. Hey, look at that. First off, the thing I saw that stood out in this story was one of loving sacrifice. I'm not sure they want us to try something here. Try now. Should we try that? It's not touchscreen. The first thing I saw in this story was one of, it's on the wrong setting. So we'll let Alicia do this. I'm just going to go ahead and pause. Watch free, HDMI. Hey, there it is. Own the vision. Thanks, Alicia. She's my roadie. The first thing I saw in this story was this history of our church. Really was one of loving sacrifice, right? So you have this couple who was 72 and 60. Think about your age. 72 and 60 at the time, and now they're taking on. Willingly and yet sacrificially taking on a 4-year-old and his little sissy, a year and a half old or so, children who themselves had just experienced tremendous tragedy in losing both parents, grandparents who were themselves were dealing with their own grief and trauma that they were going through, losing a daughter and son-in-law, and yet they moved forward. They followed in the steps of Jesus by laying down their lives for someone they loved. For these two teens that we love, Chris and Emma. Now, all of us aren't going to be called to the same level of sacrifice in that way. And none of us would want to go through such tragedy as they have gone through themselves. But we will all be called to lay down our lives for others by loving sacrifice as we step into our new mission and vision. We're all going to be called to that kind of care, that kind of heart that says, I want to make a difference in somebody's life, even though it's going to cost me something. We saw two of our members of our church, Aaron and Emily Cash, display what it looks like to follow the commands of Jesus to love your neighbor. Literally, right? To love your neighbor well. They didn't have to get involved. They could have chosen to play it safe, stay in their home, stay in their safe bubbles of just going to church. But they said, no, we're going to lay down our lives too. We're going to step out in faith and love, and we're going to be the kind of neighbor that Jesus calls us to be. As we step into our new mission and vision, as a congregation, we too, all of us, are going to be called to love our neighbors like these two loved their neighbors. We saw the larger church body become the hands and feet of Jesus by helping fill in ponds and build play sets and meet practical needs of the family, bringing meals, whatever it was, just walking alongside this family who was in heartache and scrambling to adjust. As we step into our new mission and vision, we all are going to be called to be the hands and feet of Jesus to others. And lastly, we heard of this tremendous ministry, model of ministry, the Angels of America's Fallen, these supporting kids and youth and the endeavors that they desire to pursue, this mentoring of younger and others coming alongside them and counseling them and chatting with them, talking with them, helping them to process through the things that they were going through. You know, I think that's a wonderful ministry model, and I find it as no coincidence that as a congregation, we just implemented ourselves where we designate a portion of our budget, what we call our Equipping the Next Generation line item in our budget, so that we can help kids and youth and young adults develop skills and talents and abilities so that they in turn become leaders for Jesus, shaping cultures for the kingdom, that they would impact people around them because we're pouring into them. And so we have money that we're setting aside that we want to, if you want to learn a certain skill or a certain, thing that you're passionate about, we want to come alongside you for that. And it doesn't have to be just a church thing, right? Whatever it is you're passionate about, what do you want to do? We want to come alongside and we want to invest in you. That's part of our budget currently. And we think it's a great parallel to what we saw there. And it's this idea of pouring into others. And that more and more as we go forward, as we step in our mission vision, we're going to be pouring into others more, equipping people, coming alongside them, mentoring them, financially supporting them. So the story we heard today is it's a story of who we have been, it's a story of who we are, and it's a story of who we're going to become even more so as Jesus people. Late January of 2020, we asked you to be praying about two things. First, to be praying for the vision team who was prayerfully seeking a mission and direction. The mission is always the same in that we want to make disciples, we want to see people come to Jesus. But there's a question of how are we going to do that as a congregation? How specifically are we going to do that? And so we began asking you to pray for that vision team as they were going through this process of trying to figure out a new day for Grandview. And second, we asked you to pray about what's going to be your part in the new vision going forward. Now, I want to say thanks for your prayers because the vision team has met, and we're going to share, the whole team's going to be up here next week sharing in detail. We've met, and we have this exciting new direction that we believe that God has been. We hold that loosely and humbly in the Lord's hands, but we believe that He has moved us in this direction. And so we're going to be sharing about that next week. So thank you for your prayers. And next Sunday, the whole team's going to share in detail. You're saying, well, what is it? What are we doing? What's the new direction? What's the new vision? Next week, the whole enchilada. Right? So don't miss, either in person or online. But it comes now to the point where you say, okay, well, what is my part? That's the other part of the prayer, right? The vision team's concluded. You've been praying for them. Now what's my part? And so a couple of action steps I want you to consider today as we've heard this tremendous story of this family and how God's been at work in and through our church and other areas as well, other people coming alongside them. Action steps, ask in prayer the month of March, the vision's being unveiled. Father, what part do you have for me in our new mission and vision? We want to engage everyone. That will become very clear as we go forward. We want to engage everyone in our new mission and vision. Everybody's going to have a place, a part. And so what's my part as we go forward? Number 2, encourage you to prepare yourself to step into the kind of biblical responses and actions we heard today. The things that we heard today. So prepare yourself to step into loving sacrifice. That is a sacrifice. It's going to cost you something, but it's going to be worth it. It's going to be worth it. I encourage you to step into loving your neighbor well. By that we mean your next door neighbor, literally. By that we mean the neighbors around our church campus here, the people that God has in your life, your circle of influence. Love your neighbors well. Encourage you to prepare yourself to be the hands and feet of Jesus to people. Practically, right? Come alongside them. Make a difference, concrete difference in their life by what you're doing. Maybe that's filling in a pond and building a playground. Maybe that's something completely different. Lastly, encourage you to prepare yourself to pour into others. Say, I want to mentor somebody. I want to be there for them when they've gone through tragedy or difficulty. I want to come alongside them. I want to financially support them. I want to support them with my time, with who I am, whatever ways, right? Pouring into other people. You say, what are we doing? Well, today's story is the why. It's the big picture. It's the heart of it. This is where we're going.